I am making a chimera deck profile. I'm making the deck because of how I tried using it in branded. I didn't like how it was working in branded, but I liked the engine itself, so I figured I'd make the engine into its own deck. And overall, I really enjoy it, though I do still need to learn it better because I'm not very good with it. But anyway, starting off with the monsters, I play one copy of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts. This is mainly just in here for the second effect of Chimera Fusion that isn't often used. Then I play 3 copies of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Claws. Mythical Claws has the effect that when it's normal or special summoned, you can add a level 5 Fiend monster or a Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. And then if it's sent to the graveyard as fusion material. For the fusion summon, this goes in there for fusion summon. And if it's used as fusion material and sent to the graveyard, you then get to add an illusion monster from deck to your hand, and you can only use each effect once per turn. I don't know why I couldn't not remember that last effect. And then I play 1 copy of Baphomet. Again, this is just for the grave effect of Chimera Fusion. Then I play 3 copies of Big Winged Baphomet. Big Winged Baphomet just has the effect that when it's normal or special summoned, you can add a level 4 Beast monster or a Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. And then, however, you can't summon monsters from the extra deck this turn except fusions, which is fine because your entire extra deck is fusion monsters. And then it has a similar effect where if it's sent to the graveyard as fusion material, if this card sends to the graveyard as fusion material, you can target an illusion monster in your grave and special summon it. And you can only use each effect of Big Wing Baphomet once per turn. Now for the illusion monsters. I play 3 copies of Master Dao the Chanter. Master Dao the Chanter has the effect, it's like most illusion monsters, or I believe at the moment it's all illusion monsters, have the effect that if they battle, neither monster can be destroyed in that battle. And then Master Dao has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target an illusion monster in your grave except Master Dao and special summon it. But you do have to be careful because if you use this effect, then you're not allowed to summon monsters for the rest of the turn except illusion monsters. And then the monster you target with its effect, though, is summoned in defense position. Probably mention that just in case it matters. It usually doesn't. Next, I play 3 copies of Cornfield Codal. Cornfield Codal has the effect of once per turn, you can discard this card, add a monster that mentions Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand, except for another copy of itself. And then it has the effect that when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card or cards you control, while you control Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard and negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. The main reason I like this card is just because it gets Chimera Fusion, and it is a graveyard negation. Or it's a negation from the graveyard, I should say. Next, I play 3 copies of Mirror Sword Knight. Mirror Sword Knight has the effect that if it battles a monster... I'm about to just read the card off below. But it also has the effect that if it battles a monster, neither monster can be destroyed in battle. But you can only use each of its effects once per turn. And where you can quick effect, tribute this card, special summon a monster from your deck that mentions Chimera Fusion, except for Mirror Sword Knight. When a monster your opponent controls activates this effect, while you control Chimera Fusion, while you control Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard to negate that effect. So again, I just like it because you can tribute it, summon Gazelle adds Chimera Fusion, or you can then use it to summon Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts, which is always treated as Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, and then have a grave negation with this card. That just negates the monster effect. And finally, for the illusion monsters, I play 3 copies of Nightmare Magician. Nightmare Magician has the effect where at the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can take control of that opponent's monster. And then once per turn, at the damage step, if another monster attacks, you can destroy 1 card in the field. So the main thing with this is that you can have it attack a monster, take control of that monster, then have it attack, and where you can then destroy one card on the field, and then if your opponent doesn't have any monsters after that, you just attack directly. Which I honestly really like Nightmare Magician. And then finally, for the monsters, I play 3 copies of Edge Jump Chain. Edge Jump Chain's only in this deck so to help with your fusion spamming. As has the effect where if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, I believe it has to be hand or field though. Yeah, if it's sent from hand or field to the graveyard by a card effect, you can then add a Fright Fur spell from your deck to your hand. And that's it for the monsters. For the spells, I play 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Dusters because this deck does not like back row. And 1 copy of Called by the Grave just to prevent your opponent from using a hand trap to stop you when you need to have a thing resolve. Or just to prevent your opponent from using things like Tear Lament effects in Grave. Just an example. Like, I remember using this when I was playing a Bestial deck, which this deck does side all the Bestials because I really don't like Tear Lament, and Tear Lament is a very prevalent deck at my locals. But it's just funny because you have a bunch of Bestials to take care of the one of Tear Laments, and then you have a Call by the Grave to take care of Tear Lament's Kashtira, which I think is fun. Anyway, back to this deck. For the spells, I play 3 copies of Chimera Fusion. This just lets you fusion summon a monster from your extra using monsters from your hand or field's material, including a beast or fiend. And then during your main phase, this card's in your graveyard, and you have Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast in play. You can activate 1 of 2 effects, where you can add it to your hand, or you can banish it to then special summon both Gazelle, King of Mythical Beasts, and Baphomet from your deck or graveyard. Like I said, those 2 are only in this deck because I want to. I can see that banish effect having use, but I'll probably end up taking them out, as well as a few other cards for cards like Ash Blossom and Infinite Impermanence. And then the card I'm testing in this deck is 3 copies of Fusion Armament. This lets you reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck, and special summon 1 of the revealed fusion monsters whose name is mentioned on that monster from your extra deck or graveyard. But until the end of your opponent's next turn, it cannot attack, and its effects, if any, are negated. And then you can only activate 1 Fusion Armament per turn. Then next, I play 3 copies of Fright for Patchwork. This is you only activate 1 per turn. That lets you add an Edge Imp and a Polymerization from your deck to your hand. Which I also play 3 copies of Polymerization. This just lets you fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck by using monsters from your hand or field as material. And then finally for the deck, I am testing 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet lets you send cards from your hand or field to graveyard other than itself, to then be able to non-targeting negate monster effects that your opponent controls, as well as have their attack till the end of the turn. And then your opponent cannot respond with card types, monster, spell, or trap, depending on what you send. So you send a monster and a spell, your opponent can only respond with traps. Or if you send monster, spell, and trap, then your opponent just can't respond. Which, Forbidden Droplet's also a decent going second card if you're using a deck that only requires like a 1-card combo, but your opponent has a bunch of negates. But that is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, since I am playing 3 copies of Fusion Armament, I am also playing 3 copies of Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast. As you are able to summon this off of the Fusion Armament, which gives you Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast in play for all of your cards that require it. As well as it just being able to cheat out one of your better Chimera monsters. Then next, I play 3 copies of Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts. Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts has the effect that its name is always treated as Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, while it is on the field or in the graveyard. And then you can only use each of its effects once per turn, where if it's fusion summoned, you can activate its effect to send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. Then during the end phase of this turn, you can activate its effect when it's summoned to make your opponent send a card from their hand to the end phase during the end, or at the end of the turn. And then its other effect is during your opponent's turn, quick effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard and target a beast, fusion, or illusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Which, I don't actually use that effect often, but the main thing I usually do is summon it, then I will make my opponent have to discard a card during the end phase, and then use it to summon some of the other monsters. And then next I play 3 copies of Baphomet, the mythical king of phantom beasts. Baphomet has the effect that, again, its name is always treated as Chimera, the flying mythical beast, while it's on the field or in the graveyard. And then you can only use each of its effects once per turn. With those effects being, once per turn, if this card is fusion summoned, you can send 1 beast, fiend, or illusion monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one of your banished beast, fiend, or illusion monsters, except for Baphomet, the mythical king of phantom beasts, and special summon it. And then next, I play 2 copies of Magnum the Reliever. I could have swore when I was building this deck that I had 2, but apparently I only have 1. But Magnum the Reliever has the effect that I don't remember, I'm being honest, where you can target a fusion spell or polymerization spell that's in your graveyard, place that card on the bottom of the deck, then draw a card. When another card or its effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish a polymerization spell or fusion spell from your graveyard, target 1 card on the field, destroy it. You can use each effect on Magnum the Reliever once per turn. The main thing with this is that you can put your spells like Chimera, Fusion, or Polymerization back into the deck, draw a card, and then you can banish things like Fusion Armament to then be able to destroy things. And I figured, since I had 1 extra spot, and I know I don't have a second copy of Guardian Chimera, I'd play a second Magnum the Reliever, but apparently I do not have a second. So technically that last spot can be whatever you want it to be, as long as it's a fusion. Like, one thing I might consider think of doing is taking out the second Magnum the Reliever and putting in something like Starving Venom or some other Super Poly target in either side or main Super Poly. Then next I play 3 copies of Chimera the Illusion Beast. Chimera the Illusion Beast is the other reason why Fusion Armament's able to summon Chimera, the king of flying beasts, or the king of mythical beasts, or the flying mythical beasts. I cannot remember names, I am so sorry. Because it requires Chimera, the flying mythical beast, and 1 or more illusion monsters. But it has the same effect as the others, where its name becomes Chimera, the flying mythical beast, while it's on the field or in the graveyard. And then its other effects, because I've honestly only summoned this once or twice, it can attack on monsters. But it can make an attack on monsters your opponent controls, up to the number of fusion material monsters used for its fusion material. Make sure it's correct. So if you're summoning it, then it's going to be able to attack at least twice. And then if it battles a monster, the monster can be destroyed by that battle. And then at the end of the damage step, this card battles an opponent's monster. You can change that opponent's monster attack to 0, also negates effects. That's the main thing I like about this, is that you can have it attack 1 monster. It won't be destroyed, your opponent will still take some damage, and then its effect will reduce that monster attack to 0, where you can then keep attacking that monster and basically be attacking directly. So basically, if you use this in 2 illusion monsters, if you use this in 3 illusion monsters, then you're basically just winning if your opponent has nothing to stop the attacks. And then the final monster in my extra deck is 1 copy of Guardian Chimera. I would play 2 of this, but since I only have the 1, and right now it's not that easy to just, for me to just buy. But Guardian Chimera has the effect where when it's fusion summoned, you can activate its effect to then destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of monsters on your field used for its fusion summoning, and then you get to draw cards from your deck for the number of monsters from your hand used for its fusion summon, where it requires 3 monsters with different names, with at least 1 being from hand and at least 1 being from field. So you can draw 2, destroy 1, or destroy 2 and draw 1. And then its other effect is, while polymerization is in the graveyard, You can it basically makes it unable to be targeted by card effects, and you can only use each effect, or you can only use the effect of Guardian Chimera once per turn. And that is it for my Chimera deck profile. If you have ideas what I can do to improve the deck, any ideas for decks I like to see made in the future, or decks I like to see face each other, feel free to comment down below. Thank you for watching.